Hey guys, I'm Heather, and I'm the oldest. She's the emotional one.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Pollyanna, 1 second. I'm gonna pee.
Hey guys, I'm Ben. I'm the middle child.
And he's the practical one.
Oh, here's I'm pragmatic. I take my favorite song and I'm willing to cut it.
Ew, get off the cross. You're not the only one who did that. I'm Beth, and I'm the baby.
She's also the swing vote.
You had one job. What did you say? What did you say? What came out of your mouth?
Together, we make the Music List podcast. Welcome back to the Music List podcast. I am Ben with my sisters Heather and Beth. We are siblings that argue while making music lists. That's what we do on the Music List podcast. And today we are tackling a topic that's kind of in my wheelhouse, maybe more than Heather's. Beth was listening to what she called Garth during the 90s. The rest of the world called it CMT.
It's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but so she is well versed in 90s country for sure, even though she was born in 90. But you know, particularly the mid 90s on, when she was 4 or 5 years old, she was babysat primarily not by people but by CMT.
We just set her in front of the TV.
And so she does know a lot about this particular category, and we're going to try to figure out who the most iconic male country artist of the 1990s are, and at some point we will later on come in and do the most iconic females of the 1990s. But for today, we're gonna hit the guys, and so I know this was really what I was listening to in the 90s. I know this was what Beth was listening to in the 90s. Heather, how much were you listening to country in the 90s, or how did you come about getting your expertise, as it were, on 90s country?
Well, I wasn't listening to a lot of country in the 90s. Except, I think it was in 92, which is the year I graduated. They took MTV off of our cable package or whatever, out of the whole town, replaced it with A&E. So the only video, we didn't have VH1, so the only music video channel I had was CMT. So for, a year until I left for college, I watched CMT. But yeah, I don't have a whole. I don't know how much I'll be able to bring to the table with this. Of course I'm familiar, but because we live in the South, and you're just gonna get some country. But I did not go and seek. I don't own. That is not true. That is not true. I do own, or I did own a CD of one of these artists. Yeah, that's it.
So Beth, I know that probably the late 90s, the mid to late 90s, are going to be stronger than the early 90s for you. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that would be fair to say.
You're not going to elaborate on that.
No, you asked me a yes or no question. It was not really, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what I don't know. Some of this, I don't even remember, was told to me, right? The things that I would do when I was really young, like the whole ain't nothing wrong with the radio saga. I don't recall that. I just have to take y'all's word for it that happened, that I would beg you to play that song.
Well, do you know who sang that song?
Aaron Tippin, I do know.
Okay, good. That's good. That's a good start.
Yep. Yeah. Epic mustache. Iconic even.
And iconic muscles.
Yeah.
That guy was built like he could go into the octagon. He was
and a pretty
else.
Respectable mullet, if I remember correct.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like I was, Aaron Tippin's one of those guys, like if you were going to walk into a back alley and you wanted somebody.
Did he die?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
No.
that's fair though, because sometimes I still think like Steve Perry's dead, but he's not. Anyway, that was unrelated to this topic, but
100%
yeah.
unrelated.
Well, I mean, because she thought Aaron Tippin was dead, so I was just trying to relate. You know, we're building relationships here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bridging that.
What was that?
generation gap.
That's not a text. That's a world-to-world connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Okay.
ELA terms. So
Cool.
great. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just get to the draft.
Yeah, I was like, can we liven this up? Because
So let's just get to the draft. And
Gee.
unfortunately, I say that. Unfortunately, I did not want to draft first at all. At all, I did not want to draft first.
Did you draft first?
I ended up pulling the first pick of the draft. I did. And I really did not want to. The draft order is me, Beth, and then Heather. And the reason I did not want to draft first is because my favorite artist I know is not number one. But I'm drafting that person anyway.
Oh, okay.
I know who number one is.
We all know who number one.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Nobody dominated a entire decade the way that individual
Right.
dominated a decade
Yeah.
in country music. But I'm not. I just like somebody better, so I'm going to draft them first because I know that other person is going to get drafted. So the first overall pick in the most iconic 90s for male country stars is Alan Jackson. And Alan, Don't Rock the Jukebox.
Wanna hear some Jones? 'Cause my heart ain't ready.
75 million albums sold, 66 songs charted, 38 hit the top 5, 35 went number 1, 9 certified multi-platinum albums. No doubt big-time resume for Alan Jackson. The 90s was his biggest decade, had a little bit of a fall off from about 99 to 2001, and then he had When the World Stopped Turning, then he had Remember When, I believe that was 2003, I think was Remember When.
Maybe.
So, he did have some really, really, he kind of had a bounce back after about 3 years, kind of off years. But, man, that debut studio album was unbelievable. Here in the Real World, it had Here in the Real World, Chasing That Neon Rainbow, I'd Love You All Over Again. Followed that up with Don't Rock the Jukebox. Had Don't Rock the Jukebox, Dallas. Somehow the best song on the album, in my opinion, Midnight in Montgomery, is the one single that didn't go number one. It only,
that's a good song.
Only got to number 3. And then 93, he owned 1993. That was the A Lot About Living, A Lot About Love album. To me, I would say it's, in my opinion, the best 90s country album, male or female. It had everything. It had traditional country sounds, yes. Did it have some of the pop influence songs that were kind of starting to weasel their way into country music? It did. Did it have a car song, which is big in country music? It did. Mercury Blues. Did it have a breakup song? It certainly did. A makeup song? Yes, it did. Booze song. You got to have a good booze song. It had I don't need the booze to get a buzz on.
Obviously.
Okay. But I want you to know, I know this album so well that I'm not looking at liner notes for that. I actually was trying to say, I know it has a booze song. Which one is it? I don't need the booze to get a buzz on. Cheesy country song. Yes. And then, does it have a really, really big hit? I would like to present to you the Chattahoochee song. Right? It's got, she's got the rhythm and I got the blues. Tonight I Climb the Wall, which Tonight I Climb the Wall is an amazing song.
Yeah, it's a good song.
And then, the run just continued, just throughout the 90s. And the reason that I love Alan Jackson, the reason he's tops for me, and I've mentioned this, I think, to y'all, maybe not during a podcast, but there's that joke in Blues Brothers. We play both kinds, country and Western. Right. Well, there really are. There's almost like within the country music genre, there's the Western and there's the country. And I really think like George Strait's the prototypical Western. We're going to sing about rodeos, horses, cows. That's kind of George Strait's deal. But then you've got the country where, that's kind of like East Texas and over towards the Carolinas, which is rivers, hunting, pickup trucks,
Tractor.
Farming, that kind of stuff. And that was Alan Jackson. And we live in Arkansas, so we're much more, we don't do a lot of rodeos in Arkansas, but we do a lot of agriculture here. We do a lot of hunting here, all of those things. And Alan Jackson, to me, spoke to Southern boys more than anybody else that was singing in the 90s. I mean, the Chattahoochee it's a summer anthem for people that live in the South. You could replace, for us, the Chattahoochee River with Lake DeGray, and it's the same song,
Yeah.
So, to me, I think that's probably what it was for me. But also, I'm very, very loyal to Alan Jackson because when a lot of people were completely jumping the shark with pop, Alan Jackson stayed pretty traditional throughout the whole 90s and even in 2000 where it really went off the rails. And, we're talking about all kinds of just absolute nonsense going on. Alan Jackson continued to put out what I would consider to be more or less pretty traditional stuff. And they called it neo-traditional because there was some pop influence, but it still had that basic country root to it. And so for me, Alan Jackson was my favorite growing up. I know he's not number one, and I know he's probably not going to be the number one overall, but I do think that he is. I'm going to fight for him like a dog you won't believe for number two. But
I'm going to fight for him like Bruce Dickinson.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So, but that's my pick, Alan Jackson, and he will forever be the first pick on this topic.
And Mark and I went with some friends to see him recently, and he's sick now. I can't remember the name of the illness that he has, but it affects like his legs and arms and stuff. But which is why I guess this is like his farewell tour. But he still sounds great. I mean, it's not that his songs are super hard to sing or anything. He's not doing vocal gymnastics or anything like that. But he sings where he's comfortable and he writes honest lyrics. And when we've talked a few times about music videos on the podcast, and he had some great videos, and that's something that they featured throughout the whole thing. Like behind him, they would play the video, and he would sing, and it was as if it were synced up because he sounds pretty darn much exactly like the record.
He's got a really distinctive voice.
He does, yeah, and he just seems like a nice guy, like a guy that you could just hang out with, and he just seems so down to earth.
He does, and he is the focal point of my favorite CMA story, which is there was a year when he was super hot, man. I mean, this was mid-90s. I don't know exactly the year, but he was up for Entertainer of the Year and all this other kind of stuff. And George Jones had choices up for Song of the Year. And CMA said you can only play 45 seconds of your song. And George Jones said, I'm George frickin' Jones. Because what they did is, every song that was up for Song of the Year got to play their song. And I guess they probably did it for everybody. But George Jones, I'm not cutting my song down to 1 minute or a minute and a half or whatever. I'm going to play my song. They refused. And so George Jones didn't even go. So Alan Jackson, because he was up for Entertainer of the Year, he had a spot. They gave him the whole time for his song. He goes into about 40 seconds of his songs, and he busts into Choices. And CMA didn't know it was coming. So he sang Choices, and then he walked off the stage and walked out.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Alan.
That's some outlaw stuff right there now. I mean, we hadn't been doing some outlaw stuff since Waylon and Willie and those boys. And Alan pulled some outlaw business on them right there. Some traditional, good old country boy stuff right there. And that's another thing as I'm looking at some of these guys. Who's a real country boy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who really understands the lyrics that they're singing? I honestly, Alan Jackson from Georgia, I honestly think that he's singing about stuff he knows. He's not having to go watch, Where the Red Fern Grows, to know how to act and sing.
Yeah.
I feel like he understands what he's singing about.
Something else about him, you talked about, you've got the West where you got rodeo and all that stuff, and then you come over into more our area of the states and you got farming and all that stuff. But I mean, there are a lot of us that doesn't apply to neither one of those, right? We do not live on a farm. We just live in the South. And I think Alan Jackson has written a lot of music for people who fit our mold, because he doesn't have a ton of songs about farming or like there are a lot of folks that's like, I'm talking about my tractor or whatever. And he doesn't write about that. He writes about his truck, driving with his dad, with his girls, just Southern, living in the South, not necessarily on a farm. Because we don't all, apart from what some people think living in the South to be, we don't all, live in overalls with bare feet and go bale hay or whatever. So, some of us live in cities, but we still have,
There's still a lot of trucks in the cities.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so Alan Jackson's my number one pick, and I got first pick. And so even though I know that he's not going to be, I can't imagine that he would be, but he's my favorite, so I drafted him first. Beth, you get the next pick.
Well, I'm going to pick the one who is the true number one, the one that will come out on the top of this list unless y'all are on crack. And that would be Garth Brooks. And we can just enjoy this for a second, because there's a lot to enjoy about Garth Brooks.
I know every word of this song, too.
I spent last night in the arms of a girl in Louisiana. And though I'm out on the highway, my thoughts are still with her. Such a strange combination of a woman and a child. Such a strange situation, stopping every 100 miles, calling Baton Rouge.
I do love that. Operator, won't you put me on? That's good, boy.
Did not do that. No, he goes into another verse here.
Another verse.
But yeah, and then the thing about Garth, well, hold on, let's do some stats first. But so he changed the game in country, honestly. I know Ben somewhat disagrees to a certain extent, but I do feel like he put country music on a different track. When you see what Garth is doing and his integration of pop, rock, but still you can hear the fiddle here still super strongly. It's just a great fusion of all of these things. It's just fun music that has some roots in the South. And so other people started doing that. He's the only artist in music history to release 9 albums that went diamond. And as of 2020, he was the best-selling solo albums artist in the U.S., ahead of Elvis, and second only to the Beatles in total album sales overall in history. He was the AMA Artist of the 90s, and he's the youngest recipient of the Library of Congress Gershwin Prize for Popular Song. And as a live entertainer, he is truly the best show I have ever seen. People talk about the Britney mic, where it's hooked onto it, but that's also the Garth mic. And that dude, I don't know how he does it, but he is literally running across huge stages, playing guitar, singing, and still sounding really darn good. I don't know. I don't know how, but the dude has some stamina. Yeah. And so obviously, yes, I apparently used to call, again, this is a thing I don't remember, but I did call CMT Garth, and that's not for no reason. You know, I'm sure that his videos were on heavy rotation.
They were.
And there are so many hits. You know, if you talk about trying to pick your favorite, before we went to see him, one of my friends was like, what are your top 5 Garth songs? And I was like, I'm going to have to get back with you on that because there are so many to pick from. And to speak to his ability to entertain. We were in Razorback Stadium. It's not like obviously the largest stadium you'll ever be in, but it's pretty darn big. And as far as Arkansas venues goes, it's insane. So I'm at the tip top. There is only one row behind me before you go. Before
pretty high up there.
That's the last part. So I'm the next to the highest row, and somehow he's still like he was such an ant to me. I had to watch him on the screen, but I did not care because I was in the same location as Garth, and he somehow still made that huge arena feel intimate in a way. You felt included. You didn't feel like you had, we didn't feel like we paid cheap seats. We got our money's worth plus some. So, and I can't speak to how he does it. I don't know. It's a mystery to me, but he did. And I'm a Garth stan. That's all it is. But
Okay.
I mean, Old Troil, he's kind of weird.
Yeah,
He is kind of weird.
Question. I need to know,
Yeah.
where are the bodies? The families need closure.
Yeah.
It never gets old. It never gets old. And have you
it doesn't.
seen? You've seen the original clip, right?
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah, it was
I didn't-
weird.
He's like, we're gonna get physical playing some music. I like that. You know?
No, yeah, maybe I have.
and so-
he is straight. Like his Netflix documentary, like and maybe that's because he's so creative. He's such a creative person, and sometimes creative people are different. But yeah, his interviews are
Weird.
They are weird. There's just something off about him. But he can write a darn good song.
What just happened?
I slapped the table because that's how strongly I feel
My
about
ears
Garth.
went out. I was like,
Let's put this in perspective for Garth. Here's a list of the greatest selling country albums of all time. Okay, number 1 is "Come On Over" by Shania Twain.
Indeed.
Number 2, "No Fences" by Garth Brooks. Number 3, "Rope in the Wind," Garth Brooks. We got a Dixie Chick song, or the Chicks now. Number 5, "Double Live," Garth Brooks.
yeah.
We get to number 10. He's half of the top 10 is Garth Brooks, which was probably his worst album, was the first one. The Chase, number 11. In Pieces, number 13. The Hits, Garth Brooks, number 15. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Garth Brooks. Fresh Horses, 19. I mean, he's got almost half of the top 20 best country selling albums of all time.
No Fences was the aforementioned album.
The album you had?
that I had, yes.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, I mean, I am a huge fan of Garth Brooks' early stuff. And I say that. The Garth Brooks album, the debut, I say that. It's pretty good. It has "If Tomorrow Never Comes," "Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old," and it's got "The Dance." I mean, that's pretty good debut album, right? "No Fences" was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was a great album.
Phenomenal. "Thunder Rolls," "Two of a Kind Working on a Full House," "Friends in Low Places," "Wild Horses," "Unanswered Prayers," and even like "New Way to Fly."
Unanswered Prayers is so
New Way
good.
to Fly is a great song, but it wasn't singled out. "Victim of the Game" is a great song, wasn't singled out. The first, I would say, through "In Pieces," which is his first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums. His first 5 albums, I love his stuff in the first 5 albums. You know, and that's including stuff like American Honky Tonk Bar Association and stuff like that, which, you know, we're getting kind of country pop-ish there for sure. But, and Colin Baton Rouge actually comes off of this album.
Yeah.
The In Pieces album. But yeah, I do think he catches a lot of heck that does not necessarily gear towards him. I think whoever sold the most albums in the 90s was going to get blamed for it to some degree. And he and Shania sold more albums than anybody. And they catch the most flack, no question. I do think Shania deserves more of the blame than he does. Because she was actively going after trying to get on the pop charts.
Yeah.
Garth was just, I think, as much more than anything, rolling with the general direction of the way country music was going. He was just doing it better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I do think he catches some unnecessary negativity from the traditional country music fans like myself. I'll say that.
Heather, what's your first pick?
My first pick is King George. I mean, he is the CMA Entertainer of the Year, 89, 90, and 2013. Nominated for more CMA and ACM awards and more wins than any other artist. 2009, he broke Conway Twitty's record for the most number one Billboard country charts when he hit his 44th, beating Conway Twitty's 40. He has 60 number one hits. That's a lot. Currently holds the record for the most number one songs on all charts by an artist in any genre of music. His Cowboy Rides Away tour drew 104,793 people, which was a new record for the largest indoor concert in North America. 120 million records, 13 multi-platinum, 33 platinum, 38 gold, and he's the 12th best-selling artist in American history, but probably still behind Garth. For sure.
Oh, yeah, I would say
But
so.
I've always liked George Strait, just because I think I've just, you know, I mean, I think he seems genuine. He seems not problematic. He just kind of goes up there and sings the songs, and I mean,
Yeah.
he's maybe a little boring, maybe.
Yeah. And
Fun fact, though, you love a fun fact.
I do love a fun fact. Give it to me.
He's been married for a long time, and her maiden name, Voss.
How about that?
So we may, yeah, I know.
We're going to need to look into that.
I know. So we may be.
Well, then maybe I shouldn't say what I actually think about his music.
And I would imagine, just knowing what I know about, because the 80s music style, country music style, was so significantly different. It really, the class of 89 was incredible. It's Garth Brooks, it's Alan Jackson, it's some more guys that we're probably going to mention today. So I'll just leave it at that. Those are not the only two class of 89ers that are going to be mentioned. They completely changed the way country music sounds, the class of 89. George predates that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were not many dudes that started in the heart of the 80s and were able to transition into the 90s. But George did it. You know, George Strait, you know, actually, we played The Chair. That was from 1985.
I know.
Right? And The Fireman also from 1985. You know, but, I mean, in 1990... we get Love Without End, Amen. I've Come to Expect It From You. In 91, You Know Me Better Than That. You know, I mean, and then in 92, we get the Pure Country album.
Yeah.
And the movie, which has I Cross My Heart, which may
that was
be
huge. I
the
mean,
quintessential love country song of the 90s. I mean, if we did a music list podcast on the best country love songs of the 90s. That's going to be a contender for the top spot. I mean, just his consistency
Yeah.
from really the early 80s to,
The teens.
I mean, goodness gracious. Troubadour was 2008. I Saw God Today was 2008. I mean,
he won Entertainer of the Year in 2013.
I mean, the longevity of George Strait is ridiculous.
To be called the king of country music, that's
over guys like Hank Williams
and
well, Garth.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel as if he's, we've talked about artists before on the podcast that you're like, I think it was Pink Floyd for you, you're like, it's one of those artists that I feel like I'm supposed to like, but I just not that into. That's kind of George Strait for me. I'm just not, it's just not my country guy. I mean, I recognize him for his hits and who he is and his staying power and all of that. It's just, he's not my fave, but that doesn't mean he's not one of the most iconic.
He is one of my favorites, and a big part of that is I can sing every single note he can sing. So I can sing every song that he sings. There's not a note that he hits that I have trouble hitting.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to sing along with George Jones can get incredibly low, and he can get incredibly high. Mm-hmm. I mean, his range is, it's not very good anymore. But at its peak, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
George's voice is not real hard to sing along with, first of all. But, man, he had great songs.
Yeah.
I mean, from, like, Amarillo by Morning is considered by many to be
a great song.
Maybe the best country song of all time.
Oof.
I mean, and that's a big...
That's salty.
Yeah.
That's a big statement.
Yeah.
But it is considered by many to be that. And just, I don't know, man. I mean, he just a ton of hits. 60 hits, 60 number ones.
Yeah.
That's just the number ones.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That's not all the top fives and all the top tens.
Yeah.
But again, where Garth accumulated the overwhelming majority of those in one decade, George did it over like 30 years.
Yeah.
Right.
But super consistent. Super consistent.
Heather, you get another pick.
You get another pick. Huh?
Okay, my second pick is Vince Gill. 20 studio albums, 40 charted singles, 18 CMA awards, including 2 Entertainer of the Year. As of 2022, he had 22 Grammys, which is more than any other male country artist. He went into the Hall of Fame in 2007. And joined the Opry in 1991. And this is big because in 2017, he replaced Glenn Frey as a regular touring member of the Eagles. Another fun fact, he declined an invite to join Dire Straits at one point.
That's
that
weird.
Would be an interesting combination.
Well, because he's a pretty bad guitar player, I mean, this song is in and of itself is enough for me to pick him. I think this song is fantastic. Another song when I was watching CMT, his song "Look at Us," like. I loved that song. I loved it so much, and I would want to listen to it, and it was on regular rotation. And if Ben was in the room, for some reason, he thought that it sounded like In the Ghetto. And he would always, at that part, I can't even do it.
Oh, no.
He'd be like, In the Ghetto, and I'd be like, oh, and he would ruin it every time. He would just come from wherever he was in the house, and he'd ruin this song. But he has a very distinctive voice. I'm not 100% positive. Well, I don't own a Vince Gill album, but it is distinctive. It is a good tenor voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And here's what I like about what I've seen. Hopefully, I'll get to see this live and in person. I hope. But the Eagles are my favorite band, and I have seen them many times, more times than I have fingers to count them on. And from what I've seen, as far as his role that he takes on now, he's very respectful of the Eagles sound, and he doesn't try to sound like Vince Gill and the Eagles. He tries very much to insert himself in a way where he is just a part of the Eagles. And so I think he's a fan of other artists, and I think he's respectful of their catalog. And so I like Vince Gill.
And I'll his duet with Reba, "The Heart Won't Lie,"
Yeah.
is
That's good.
outside of any duet by Brooks and Dunn. Maybe, well, I mean, they're all duets, really. But,
Well, yeah.
I mean, that may be the best duet of the 90s as far as country's concerned. I mean, it was really good. I mean, it was really good.
And the top-notch go-to Funeral Jam,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Go Rest High.
Go Rest High, on
Yeah.
that mountain.
So, I think as far as, men in the 90s, he needs to be in the conversation.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Oh, it's me. Oof. I am going.
Whenever I hear woof, I think this is not going to be a good pick.
You're not going to like it. But hear me out. It's because of the crossover success
Yep, I already don't like it.
I was about to say Ben loves the crossover success.
that I am drafting. I don't even want to say it out loud. Here's the thing. I don't even really care for this person that much, but I think we're talking iconic. I had to put my preferences aside sometimes, and
I'm intrigued.
Kenny Chesney.
What?
I know.
I didn't see that coming. You should.
Couldn't get much hotter.
It's not good. It's
God,
not
no, it's
good.
terrible.
I didn't say it was good.
Shade margaritas.
You think he's iconic?
Yes.
Senoritas. Oh, now I know how
Jimmy Buffett
feels.
Yeah.
His ick factor is high for me.
It kind of is, I guess. But, okay, so he had more than 40 top 10 country singles. 32 of them reached number 1. And many of those have charted in the top 40, the Hot 100 top 40. So that makes him one of the most successful crossover country artists. He's a CMA Entertainer of the Year 4 times, ACM Entertainer of the Year 4 times consecutively.
I've never been more disappointed in you in my life.
I was about to say Ben.
I'm just saying.
Thoughts?
So he has his own sound, country, pop, trop rock,
What?
tropical rock.
Trop rock?
That's a thing. You can Google it. So it's unique. It has a unique sound. You hear this kind of stuff, you're like, that sounds like a Kenny Chesney song.
More like country crock.
You're so stupid.
Because it's a crock.
No.
He got
No.
drafted.
This dude, if this dude is not this man is the personification of Gulf Shores. And you can't tell me otherwise.
Floribama.
Yeah. He stands out. There's really nobody has his sound. He's
Thank God.
really
I was about to say, is that not a
he leans into that beach country.
He does.
No shoes, no shirt, no
service.
problems. Okay? No shoes, no shirt, no problems. No, I understand nobody's going to like this. I picked it in spite of myself. But I do think that he is an iconic country artist. Here's what I will say, and I understand why y'all are going to cut him just because you don't like him. But here's what, if we have a 2000s, he really, really, really leaned into that that island country.
Island
Country. I don't know how best to describe it in that area. So I would say he really came into his own sound in the 2000s, even though he had some hits in the 90s. She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy, the one we just listened to here.
Oh my.
That one was also from the 90s. Ben is the disapproval. He has his arms crossed. He is shaking his head. It is really bad in here, y'all. Like the air was sucked out of the room when I said Kenny Chesney. But I just...
It's the worst pick in the history of the music list.
Listen. Well, no, it's not.
What is?
I don't know. Let me look. I'm sure I can find...
One that's not mine.
Yeah, I'm sure I could just...
He is like
Big Mabel or whatever. That was...
I will take Candy over anything Kenny Chesney has put together.
All right. But here's where I struggled with...
Yeah, you did struggle. 100%.
Oh, my God. Can I talk? My goodness.
Sure,
so
continue.
I will, thanks. As far as the 90s for males, I had some difficulty.
I can tell.
Shut up, bro. The 90s, honestly, were not the time for men.
Wow, that is an incredibly...
Don't say it. Don't say what you're about to say.
Horrible. Incorrect.
As far as diversity, no, there were like a handful that were like...
What do you mean diversity?
As far as a number of strong picks, like honestly, yes, iconic. When it comes to iconic, bro, yes, iconic. There are not
Did
a
you
lot.
just bro me?
I did.
I'm literally your bro, so I can't be.
Yeah,
I can't be like totally offended there, but
when I got to maybe 7, I was kind of like, I'm gonna put this person in there, but I don't think they're iconic.
there are. I bet there are a dozen dudes in the 90s that I would put before Kenny Chesney.
Iconic.
Easily.
I didn't even think of him.
Easily.
When you okay, but we didn't talk about what is an icon, and I don't know what the heck you're going off of. Like, because I feel like there are some people who are going to show up that I'm going to be like, do you really think they're iconic? I feel like they're somewhat forgettable, blend into the...
Especially within the confines of the 90s. Yes.
Okay.
A lot. I mean...
He's dumbfounded.
I broke him.
I am. I'm at a total loss.
Okay. Well,
I
you get to pick
understand,
now.
I understand
still talking
picking
about it.
someone that you don't like because that's what I did with my pick coming up, which is Tim McGraw, who is a lot more iconic than Kenny Chesney. I don't know how you
here's
had
what
Kenny
I'll tell you.
Chesney ahead of Tim McGraw.
Let me admit something. I looked back at my list.
And you realized, I should have put Tim McGraw before
It
Kenny.
wasn't really about Kenny Chesney. It was just in general the order of like I don't know, a handful of them that I was like, I think I must have been doing drugs that day because I don't agree with myself. But then I made
I got news for you.
You don't agree?
Nobody agrees with you.
Okay, that's fine. But if we do one of the 2000s, that dude will be because in the 2000s.
She's cutting him before we've even
Note
made
to
the...
self.
Yeah,
don't
you can go ahead and
do
cut. I know you can
2000s.
definitely cut it. But like, anyway, I made the choice, and I tried.
Choices were made.
I tried to bag it up, but it just really didn't fly. But anyway, he did have great crossover success. So if you want to listen to some Gulf Shores music, tell me that's not an accurate description, though.
I would say more Pensacola.
No, it's pretty Gulf Shores.
Thank you. Thank you. So at least we got that out of this podcast. Ben, what? Let's talk about Tim McGraw.
Let's talk about Tim McGraw. So, I'm not a big Tim McGraw fan, and I feel a little dirty selecting Tim McGraw, but I don't think you can deny his influence on the way that country music sounded after he came along. First album, 93, did not do well, but the big coming out party was in 94. Not a Moment Too Soon was the album.
Please
the
tell me.
The first hit off of that album was Indian Outlaw.
Okay, that's what I was hoping you were going to play.
Very problematic
Yeah, I don't think.
for a lot of reasons.
Let's not.
But Don't Take the Girl was also on that album. It's I hate to say it, it's a genuinely good song. I don't like the vocals.
Yeah, the vocals pretty.
But it is a really good song.
He improved a lot.
He really did.
He used restraint.
But I mean, here he's
over
using
singing that.
he's using this redneck hokey accent.
Yeah.
But it's a good song.
Yeah.
Change your mind, and Johnny said, take Jimmy Johnson, take
Tommy Thompson. Take my best friend, Bo.
take anybody that
But I want you to listen to some of the. Okay, this song and Not a Moment Too Soon were serious songs.
boy in the world.
Here's some of the other songs on that album: Indian Outlaw, Down on the Farm. How about this jewel of a single? Refried Dreams.
Stop. I forgot about that. Oh my God.
Yeah. And see, I think you can draw a direct correlation to the honky tonk badonky donk crap
But donkey donk.
Refried dream.
to Indian Outlaw. I think you can drive a direct line from garbage like that and anything by like Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean directly to Indian Outlaw.
He's going there. He is.
Wow.
The next album was not that great. It did have 4 songs in the top 10 though.
Okay.
It's not that great. It had 4
but
toppings.
but he did. I mean, he did put out album after album, hit after hit, and unfortunately, I think he did more to shape the direction of country music than even Garth did, because Indian Outlaw was a stupid big hit. I mean, it was ridiculous. And
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, well, we can sing ridiculous, almost slapstick country comedy songs with this ridiculous redneck accent,
Yeah.
and there'll be hits. And we saw a lot of it.
Well,
after that. And we still see a lot of
in
it.
pretty short order, though. He got with Faith, started doing those duets with her, cut his mullet, started tanning, started bulking up, in the chest and arms, and I mean, he became a sex symbol. And
he got to wear like I can't remember which album it was,
the
but
whole
it had
Nelly thing.
it had-
Listen.
Don't forget that.
That
It
song's
had-
good. All in my head.
there was an album that had Just to See You Smile, Everywhere, Where the Green Grass Grows, and It's Your Love.
Yeah.
Those are 4 really legitimately good songs that aren't campy or anything. I mean, it just relied on decent singing and good lyrics. But unfortunately, the damage was done. He'd already torpedoed country music.
Wow. All right.
Well, I don't know. What's the I Need You? That duet with Faith. That's his best duet.
But
with Faith
there's no denying
good.
his place in 90s country music. I mean, it was massive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And now, of all the people, I mean, arguably having a better. Well, Garth's still out playing and stuff, but I mean, like,
he's doing.
I mean,
just fine.
he's doing the acting
Yeah,
thing. And
he's parlayed that into
Yep.
a lot of different different things. I get another pick, don't I?
You do.
Okay. I went with another star that was more influential and more iconic in the 90s than Kenny Chesney. And that was Travis Tritt.
Oh, he was on my list. Yeah.
And this song, Anyway.
Is this Anymore?
Anymore is.
That's a good one.
And the follow up.
Oh, this may be.
Tell Me I Was Dreaming. The follow up to this.
Yeah.
These videos.
These videos are heartbreaking.
Yeah, they are.
He is legit, though, a really good singer.
He is.
I can't hold the hurt.
And whereas he never, to my knowledge, let pop really influence his music because he was already so rock based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really reminds me more than anybody in the 90s of somebody like Waylon Jennings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, he did Where Corn Don't Grow, which was first originally a Waylon Jennings song. But the delivery on this song is just unbelievable. He's surprisingly flexible with what he can do vocally. I mean, he can sing powerhouse songs, or he can deliver, a ballad like this and just do it absolutely beautifully, really.
Yeah.
He didn't hide the rock and roll sensibilities, but he was always very faithful to the ideas and the traditions of country music. He had to earn his first album. Warner Brothers made a deal with him. They were going to cut 6 songs. 3 of them had to be hits in order for them to give him an album.
Wow.
And out of those 6, he produced Country Club, Help Me Hold On, Drift Off to the Dream, and I'm Gonna Be Somebody. He produced 4, all 4 of them in the top 10, 3 of them in the top 5, and Help Me Hold On hit number 1. That's pretty good when you don't even have an album. You're just releasing singles,
Right.
and they skyrocket into the top 10. Those became the foundation for Country Club, the album Country Club. Then the next album, It's All About the Change, was great. It included Whiskey Ain't Working Anymore with one of my favorites, Marty Stewart.
Yeah.
It also had Here's a Quarter.
That is a great country song.
Here's a Quarter,
That is
Call Someone Who...
Great.
Yeah, and it's a song that kids would not understand today.
Right.
Right? Because they don't know about a payphone. They don't know what that is. And Anymore was on that album also, which may be the best country music video of all time.
It's pretty good.
As a trilogy, it's unbelievable.
I don't know, though. We still got Fancy.
This also went platinum 3 times over. Then, of course, you had Trouble album
So good.
come out. He really didn't finish the 90s as strong as some others because he was kind of on the fritz with Warner Brothers. He kind of got it going again in the early 2000s with Columbia.
Right here.
Yeah.
This phrase. He makes it sound effortless, but that is...
Yeah. But I was always a Travis Tritt fan. And I think a lot of it is because we grew up in a house where rock and roll was so prevalent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Travis Tritt, more than anybody in the 90s, I think, was kind of that rock and country guy. I mean, it was real prevalent with Waylon Jennings in the 70s, very prevalent with Hank Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He's rocking Randall Hank, But Travis Tritt in the 90s, and he's part of that class of 89 that I was talking about. I felt like he was kind of that rock and country star of the 90s that we had with Hank in the 80s, Hank Jr. in the 80s, and Waylon in the 70s. So I have Travis Tritt's my third pick.
Okay. It's me. Okay, so, but again, before I say this,
How
Oh,
are
no.
you going to top that last one?
Here's the thing. I want to talk about, I think we just need to take a pause and talk about the fact that I think that y'all might have lost sight of what the category we were assigned. Okay, it was most iconic, not the best, not your favorite. We're talking about name recognition across decades, across genres. We're talking about people who transcended simply being in country music.
Just
okay?
say the name. She doesn't want to. Ben. Like this
Still-
it hurts his soul. Look at him.
but it's
He's a broken
but
man.
this person is an icon of country music.
Is an icon.
And it's Billy Ray Cyrus.
No.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is.
I'm glad you got Garth. Oh my God. We're playing this song on our podcast.
This song is a bop. This song still slaps.
What a fool I've been. Joke about me on the phone. You can tell my
I can't.
go back into the phone.
So first of all,
Okay, yeah, so let's hear your stat.
You can tell your dog to bite my leg.
My leg.
Tell my fingertips.
yeah.
They won't
So I didn't say his musical.
To tell my fingertips they won't be reaching out for you no more.
Well,
just don't think it.
he has an iconic mullet,
Oh my
He
God.
does that.
and he has generational recognition because from 2006.
Because of Hannah Montana.
For multiple reasons. Can you let me finish? So, because from 2006 to 2011, yes, he starred in Hannah Montana. And then in 2019, we had Old Town Road with Lil Nas X,
Oh my God.
which was huge. Okay, so 90s, 2000s, then late. Then we're coming into 2019.
I think he's like actually sweating.
Okay,
He's about to get up and
we're
walk
talking
out.
we're talking about iconic. We're talking about people who are recognizable. This man, out the look, and as well
Okay, but
as
he
his
did-
career.
He doesn't have that look anymore.
He definitely has a
Although
distinct look at this time.
It definitely was like
well,
it
okay,
was a
but
Kentucky waterfall.
Shania doesn't look the same as she did.
The best song he
you know-
was in was Romeo, and that's because Dolly sang it.
Oh yeah, Romeo was good.
True.
But I mean, he was huge in the 90s. Don't
Beth,
act like he wasn't.
I gotta tell you.
Did he have
I
any other
expected more
hits?
out of
Some
you.
gave all. Some gave all. Don't talk down on that. We're honoring our veterans.
I expected more out of you on this category. I really thought you were gonna.
He really thought I was going to be the weak link
I did.
in this podcast.
I
Okay, but
100%
hold
did.
up.
And-
Y'all gonna get real butthurt about the things that I say when we get to cutting, because especially anyway.
But I
tell
need
me
you
about
to,
your third pick. Because
what I need you to understand is that you have lost all credibility when we get to the cutting stage.
why?
Kenny Chesney was your second pick.
That doesn't mean that what I have to say is not valid.
Okay. Billy Ray Cyrus was your third pick.
It doesn't mean that what I have to say is not valid
It's strong evidence.
because you disagree.
Strong evidence.
Well, okay, but Billy Ray Cyrus was like my sixth pick. Like we're way far down in the list.
Okay, well, let me get my
It's not
third
like
pick
I-
in, and then we can start cutting them.
Let's see. Where
Okay,
was he
fine.
on my list?
Okay. Anyway, it's 1:30 in the morning. Can you go?
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, my third pick was Dwight Yoakam.
Okay.
Yeah. I listen. I never said that I had, a whole lot to bring to the table, but
I do not hate this pick.
he has 12 top 10 hits, 2 number ones, 2 Grammys.
Ooh, number ones.
Yeah, that's it. His first 3 albums all reached number 1 on the Billboard Top Country chart. He has a really distinctive voice and really distinctive moves. I mean, if you If you watch Dwight Yoakam, he does that thing with his feet and the guitar and the thing.
He does that thing
I
with
don't
his
know.
feet.
I can't do it.
No, I mean he does. He does do that thing with his
I don't know how to do it. I'm just saying. My two personal favorites are.
You can't have too much grip on your boots.
That's true. Fast as You and Ain't That Lonely Yet. I love those two songs. And he, like Tim McGraw, parlayed that into a very successful acting career, and he's a sentimental favorite of our family, of course.
I will raise your Hannah Montana
And
with a sling blade.
Sling blade, yeah.
And with a Goliath.
Yep.
I don't watch that show.
I've heard he's a really
Ooh,
nice
good.
guy, but he always plays a total a-hole on everything. And Johnny Cash called him his favorite modern day artist. So if he's good enough for Johnny, he's good enough for me. Dwight Yoakam is my third pick.
Cool.
I like Dwight Yoakam.
I like Dwight Yoakam. That doesn't make him one of the most iconic country artists of the 90s.
Well, I think you have a very small group of really iconic people, and then
Oh, it's interesting that you say that, but when
Rans.
I said that about 20 minutes ago...
then you've got real country artists, and then you've got Kenny Chesney and
I think to people that enjoy country music, I think there's a relatively large group of 90s male singers that were like that people think of, oh, those guys were good. I think there's a lot of
That's
them.
we're not talking about that. We're talking about the most iconic. Y'all are picking based on what you like.
well, there's like
and
the
that's
big
not the same
I'm just
thing.
saying there's like the big three.
I specifically didn't. You did not listen to my argument for Tim McGraw at all, did you?
That's not what... No.
Because I was very clear.
I didn't say anything about Tim McGraw.
Like Tim McGraw.
No, you were correct in that.
I was very clear about that. I'm not a big Tim McGraw fan. So you were not paying
Oh my gosh.
much attention.
All right.
Time to
Working 9 to 5. We're going to cut these from 9 to 5.
No, we got to talk about the ones that were on our list
Oh.
that didn't make the list. The top 9.
I'm ready to go to bed.
So, does anybody want to share their lists?
The only people that have not been mentioned
Uh-huh.
that I had on my list, I did have Travis Tritt, were Clint Black,
Yep, I had him on my list.
and I was having
How did
Sonic, what the...
Are you
trouble.
you seriously think Kenny Chesney is more iconic than Clint Black?
Iconic. What the hell is an icon to you?
Not Kenny
No,
Chesney.
people who don't listen to country music do not know who Clint Black is. That is not an icon.
Oh, well, the other one I had was... I just had trouble thinking of somebody else. I put Sammy Kershaw.
Oh my gosh! Now
But
you know
granted,
that's a
he
say
was
it.
my
Say
number-
it. That's
he
a
was my
worse
number-
pick.
he was my
Say it,
number
Ben.
9.
That's a worse pick.
She didn't pick it.
But that's a worse.
was
That's
on her
worse to be on
honorable
the.
mention.
That's worse. Kenny Chesney should have been on your list before.
Well,
Sammy
here's what I'll say.
Kershaw.
I'll say Toby Keith should have been on there before Kenny Chesney. Absolutely. Randy Travis should have been on there before Kenny Chesney.
Trace Atkins should be on there before.
Trace
I don't know.
Atkins,
How about
before
this
Kenny Chesney.
ma'am.
How about this one? Tracy Lawrence should have been on
Yeah,
there
that's
before.
true.
Not
That's
an
true.
icon. Not
Kenny
an
Chesney's
icon.
not an icon.
More iconic
No, not than Clint Black.
than Clint
Not,
Black.
no, nowhere
Black for the
near
outside-
Clint Black.
Yes, because we're
nowhere
okay.
near. Not
Maybe
even close.
within country music only. But if you're looking at an icon,
The
an
name of
icon-
the category is
No.
literally most iconic
we-
country artist.
yes, but when we did the most iconic country females, we looked at outside influence. That's how Dolly ended up number 1.
Oh my goodness.
So please remember the past of this podcast. You're changing the category once again to fit your opinion. Not what an icon actually is. Anyway,
You're wrong. Okay,
I also
so
hey, are you gonna let? That's fine. It's fine. I didn't have anything left. We don't have to talk about the ones I didn't draft.
Oh, no, who did
who did
Y'all are both.
You're
y'all are
number
both
one.
Number 1.
you mean
So
you
in the
had
rest of
people
my-
on your list worse than Kenny Chesney?
No, actually, I had. Well, yeah, because I hate Toby Keith, but he was on my
Okay.
list. I don't like Randy Travis, but he was on my list, and I don't Well, John Anderson I like, but he's not an icon. I was reaching for people because I was like, these people are not iconic. Randy
Does
Travis,
Kenny
yes.
Chesney have
Toby
a
Keith.
swinging shirt? I don't.
John Anderson, honestly, I like him, but I don't feel like he's an icon of outside
I can't
anything
believe
outside
that
country
your
music.
argument is
outside
that
country
Kenny
music.
Chesney is iconic. That you're
Okay,
planning.
go out and ask
We need a man on the
younger
street.
people on the street. Y'all have the disease of thinking that younger people don't have anything good to say. Like y'all dismiss. Y'all just don't consider a lot of things that
I feel like that's a roundabout way of calling us.
ageist.
old.
Yeah.
There's ageism here, and there's no place for that on the podcast.
Okay. Cool. So anyway, we're gonna take these from 9 to 5. So we know Garth is number one.
I'm not going to sing 9 to 5. It's a country one. I feel
Working
like
9 to 5, and so Garth is number one. We know
Salty.
that.
salty
and then
like
we
that Kitty
also-
Chesney ocean water.
I think we also know that I'm just gonna close this out here. I think we also know Alan has to go over.
Has to go over. You're acting like you're booking a wrestling program.
Yeah, and then we know George is gonna go over
Mad
there.
at you.
George Strait is gonna go over there. Now here's where guys is gonna get a little bit stingy. Tim definitely has to go over there.
So let me tell you something.
'Cause we know that
let me slow down.
Here's the thing:
Let me slow down.
we have one spot left, guys.
She's mad at you, but you're going to get all your picks in.
Tell you,
No,
let me
I'm
tell
not
you-
putting Travis Strait over
Let
there.
me tell you what's funny about all this. Before we started the podcast, Beth said they gonna be some. Beth made a big deal. They gonna be some hurt feelings on
Yeah,
this
there
one.
are.
Gonna be some hurt feelings.
There are
She
because
was
I know
talking
you
about
guys.
Little did she know
No, it's not hurt feelings.
that she was self-prophesying.
Oh, see, look. All right. No, I was saying that you were not going to like my picks. I was correct. I just didn't
didn't
realize
get-
y'all were going to be such a-holes about it.
I didn't get my feelings hurt.
Wait.
Yeah, y'all, don't act like you're not doing. So anyway, the top 4 are set. So let me see who needs to be number 5. Travis Strait. Well, here's the thing.
Listen, Linda,
We all know.
that's not the way this works.
Okay, are y'all telling
The
me?
top 3.
I feel like the
set.
top 3 are pretty squared away. Alan
We know-
Jackson, Garth Brooks, and George Strait.
Well, and then also Tim McGraw's number 4. I'm right on all of these. So then we're looking at number 5.
Well, okay.
We have Travis Tritt, Vince Gill, Dwight Yoakam, Kenny, and Billy Ray.
Can we cut Kenny and Billy?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can cut Kenny.
And Billy.
We can cut Kenny.
And Billy. And Billy Ray. All right. So we're down to 7 choices.
1, 2, 3, 4. No,
Yep.
She moved Tim McGraw over without any discussion.
because that's correct.
You claiming the swing vote on that and just doing your thing?
So
Well,
wait, we've only got one spot left?
Yeah, we only have one
She
spot.
moved Tim McGraw over without talking to anybody.
So
She just like,
This is what y'all need to understand.
between
is that you
Vince
really
Gill-
really went and did some silly stuff, but I'm the one who has the pen and paper.
oh, okay.
So number 5 is Kenny Chesney.
I hate to, okay.
I'm just
so
kidding. Yeah. Who's number 5?
are you okay with Tim McGraw being there?
Are you okay?
He's okay. It's his pick.
Yeah. Well, and I'm second vote. Tim McGraw.
And he's the one that pissed you off. And why you
I'm saying
taking his people?
because Tim McGraw is the right pick. That's why I don't do vindictive stuff around here.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me when I did. Tell me. Pick it up. Roll that beautiful beam footage. Tell me when did I do vindictive stuff on this podcast? I'll wait.
I'm a little. Honestly, I'm just a little scared right now. I don't know. Like, what's
Because
happening?
listen, it's late, and I'm tired of being unheard. So I'm just gonna start doing stuff. I helped us narrow down, and we got to get this show on the road. We've been y'all talk too much.
Okay.
No,
Should go on.
no.
My vote would be Travis Tritt, but
So let me look. Hold on.
So the last spot has to go to either Vince Gill, Travis Tritt, or Dwight Yoakam.
Or Billy Ray Cyrus.
Or Vince Gill, Travis Tritt, or Dwight Yoakam. It's Travis Tritt, and you know it.
I'm not messed up about it, really.
I mean, is that right, though? Really, the choice is... This is why I said, as far as iconic goes, it's not that strong in the 90s for guys. Because it's like, it's kind of like, I don't really think so.
I think it does. I think the fifth spot does come down to Travis Tritt and Vince Gill.
Oof.
And I mean, I know you're saying that they're not real iconic. I think both of those guys are pretty dang famous.
I think
In country, and now Vince Gill, I will probably have to give it that
Just because of the Eagles thing?
not just because of the Eagles.
he's got him a Christmas show at the Ryman
He does,
with Amy Grant.
and then like gospel.
I will say that Vince Gill's, he is probably more well known in more circles because he does have the whole gospel thing.
Mm-hmm.
He does have now. He's heavily involved with the Eagles. He's got the bluegrass thing.
Right.
Yep.
He's got obviously the country thing. I mean, I'm not going to be like really messed up with Vince Gill. I still think Travis Tritt's the correct choice, but I do think it's really close between those two.
Well, I picked Vince Gill, so he's number 5. So, and I think honestly that the order is the way it should be. But here's our top 5, and we can see if that's the order. If y'all want to move something. Number 1, Garth Brooks. Number 2, Alan Jackson. Number 3, George Strait. Number 4, Tim McGraw. Number 5, Vince Gill. I think that's the order.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I was right. How about that? So that's it for this episode of the Music List Podcast. Please follow.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. There's going to be a monster list come out.
Can we put the Hannah Montana theme on
We're gonna-
the playlist?
We're going to
the limo
have
out front.
we're gonna have to put a Kenny Chesney song on. I apologize in advance.
Oh, I'm going to send in like 5 to spot you.
But thank you for listening. And obviously, rate, share, leave a good review if you like the podcast. If you don't like the podcast, don't leave a review. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's stir a little dust. Just look at her face. She ain't a fool.
Thanks for joining us on the Music List Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. She almost had it.